Trump's executive orders facing court battles with filings with liberal judges in blue states. Billions in unemployment benefits stolen. Trump states that both Russia and Ukraine have agreed to immediate negotiations to end the war. This is Dr. David D. Shine for Saving America with our weekly update. And with Trump in the White House, every week lately has been like being on roller skates. Trump's executive orders facing court battles with filings with liberal judges in blue states. A federal district judge in New York, of course, has issued an ex-parte restraining order to block all political appointees from accessing Treasury Administration records. Note that ex parte means nobody from the Trump administration was given a chance to appear and respond. This, of course, is based on the Dems hysteria about Musk and his buddies looking for wasteful spending. The Trump administration has filed an emergency motion to vacate the injunction. The judge's order was that only civil servants could access these records. Note that the Treasury Secretary himself is a political appointee. Trump's legal argument is that Article 2 of the United States Constitution establishes the executive branch of the government and the role of the president. The judge may be interfering with the president's right to supervise the executive branch, including all political appointed leaders within the Treasury Department. Now, a highly publicized fight is about U.S. aid. The agency was set up with the intention of making America look good on the international stage by showing our capitalist kindness relative to our dirty commies on the other side, feeding people and helping them get clean water and health care. What a fine objective. Naturally, that is not what is happening today. Much of the aid is intended for the poor that is going to tribal leaders and gangsters, not that needy population. This is just a fact. Further, there's been some extensive publicity recently with some of the most pathetic uses of our tax dollars around the world that's not being used for food and healthcare and things like that for the truly needy. And that's a false narrative for sure. At least the bulk of the aid is not being used for the way it's being sold to the public. So Trump has been sued for putting a total hold on U.S. aid until things are straightened out. Various employee unions and some non-governmental organizations have sued to keep flushing your tax dollars down the nearest toilet. Most of the judges who have ruled against Trump are in blue states and were appointed by Dem presidents. No surprise there. I'm sensitive to one issue. If you work for USAID and your job stops while you're overseas, you do need to be shipped back to the United States. That is only fair. Now, some are complaining because their kids are in school and that'll interrupt their schooling. Hey, you know what? Tough. You chose to accept an overseas assignment while having young children at home. I was a product of a military family. We moved when the Department of Defense told us to move. Just the nature of that type of government employment. So grow up or get out. Paired with this information, a judge has blocked Trump's deportation plan with regard to shipping to Gitmo criminal illegals who cannot be returned to their home countries. I actually proposed this plan some time ago. Glad to see others are on my wavelength. There is unfortunately a court precedent that supports the judge's opinion. I believe the precedent is plain wrong and that hopefully the Trump administration will get a quick appellate court review and get this reversed. It seems to me that anyone here illegally has no right to access the already overburdened U.S. legal system. Gitmo is a perfect place as far as I'm concerned. And hey, it's in the Caribbean, it's sunny. What more do they need to complain about, huh, folks? Billions in unemployment benefits have been stolen. Work and Welfare Chairman LaHood's opening statement, here are some quotes. All told, for the unemployment insurance program alone, GAO has estimated between $100 and $135 billion, billion with a B, was lost to fraud during the pandemic. That number is astounding from my standpoint. Even more concerning, the Department of Labor tells us that only $5 billion has been recovered. Meanwhile, we know law enforcement agencies have thousands of cases pending. The Department of Justice has charged more than 600 criminal unemployment cases associated with losses of over $300 million, a mere drop in the bucket so far. As of January 28th of this year, Department of Justice reports that more than 1,600 criminal matters remain open and as yet to be charged. Apparently, the statute of limitations is only 5 years, and that will soon expire. Chairman LaHood has asked for a 5-year extension to go after these thieves. I want to know why the thievery took place at all. This is underscoring the importance of examining what the government does and what these bureaucrats are doing. It sounds like they're throwing our money away. Keep in mind, the Biden Justice Department was happy to engage in lawfare against Trump and his cronies, happy to chase parents protesting woke policies at school board meetings, and even chasing down old ladies who are protesting outside abortion clinics. Yes, these folks should get fired, and the people who justify receiving our tax dollars get involved and restore justice to the American taxpayers. This has to stop in terms of the waste, and we've got to start prosecuting those who take advantage of the system. And I call for long jail terms, and maybe in some cases, even my preferred remedy, the death penalty. Trump states that both Russia and Ukraine have agreed to immediate negotiations to end the war. Trump had a 90-minute call with Putin. The two actually agreed to visit each other's countries. Given that I regard Putin as an outright war criminal, I'm not happy with that in either direction. Remember, this is the guy who jails and kills his adversaries. I would recommend meeting in Switzerland. We're not sure what Zelensky or Putin is willing to do. I'm a hardcore anti-communist and worried that this negotiation will help Russia and hurt Ukraine. Trump has a team under the leadership of new Secretary of State Marco Rubio. I know I want the sovereign nation of Ukraine to be able to join NATO. I also know that the new Department of Defense head, Pete Hegseth, does not see Ukraine being able to join NATO. That does not please me. In terms of military value, the Trump administration is also considering a deal with Ukraine to gain access to rare earth minerals in exchange for continued American support. I think we should be getting something back. But how does that happen without American forces in Ukraine to help to protect it from Putin? In what appears to be a related note, I am glad to see that the Trump administration arranged the release of American Mark Fogel, who's been held since 2021 by the Russian commies. This man should have been returned before basketball player and anti-American Brittany Griner. Yet another failure by the Biden administration that has been addressed by the Trump administration. The Gaza ceasefire deal is in shreds. As I said previously, the recent Gaza ceasefire deal stinks. First, they exchanged too many of the murderers in Israeli jails for the few hostages recovered. Second, even more revolting, the 3 most recent hostages looked emaciated, reminiscent of the photos of the survivors at the Nazi concentration camps. I doubt the other hostages will be alive much longer, if not dead already. But talk about stupid. Hamas has now tried to back out of the ceasefire and has stopped returning the few hostages that they promised to return. Both Trump and Israel have given Hamas a short time to get back on the deal or get extensive military forces focused on them beyond what anyone has seen to date. Frankly, folks, that is my preferred outcome here. It's time to completely destroy Hamas. Regarding Gaza, Trump has been speaking to neighboring countries about helping out on the humanitarian end to get some of the civilians out. Part of the problem is there's no way to separate civilians from terrorists. No rational country wants Hamas. Further, those who have cooperated and supported Hamas would make lousy new residents. $59 million of FEMA money was sent to house illegals in New York City. Fascinating that the Dems are ripping out their hair over Elon Musk pursuing government efficiency. This further proves how out of touch they are with the overtaxed and underserved Americans. Note that FEMA has denied that any of its funds were sent to illegals. This would be a crime in any event, but even worse, that we have people in North Carolina who are suffering and FEMA has failed to serve those people, those good, hardworking Americans. This situation underscores the need for executive branch to reel in the out-of-control spending by numerous federal agencies. Every tax dollar paid in and then every possible dollar that could be borrowed has simply provided the means for the Dems to use taxpayer money to buy votes. The end of that is now. A former Federal Reserve advisor is indicted in a Chinese espionage scheme. Gee, what a surprise. This is indeed a disturbing situation. Federal prosecutors have charged 63-year-old John Harold Rogers with economic espionage and making false statements after uncovering his ties to Chinese intelligence operatives. He was from 2010 to 2021 a senior advisor to the Federal Reserve. The allegations are that he was stealing sensitive financial data for the Chi-Coms. In an interesting twist, he supposedly did this in 2018 while a visiting professor at a Chinese university. The Justice Department stated that Rogers was paid approximately $450,000 for selling out his country. Another store closing announced. A staple headline of our recent Saving American reporting has been store closings. Sadly, another to report. We've already mentioned Big Lots liquidating in bankruptcy. Many dollar stores have already closed. Some of the big chains have announced large numbers of store closings. A chain I'd not heard of, Bargain Hunt, is closing all 91 stores by next month. A quick business note. Trump has announced that he ordered the U.S. Mint to stop making pennies. This is a move that is long overdue, although it does put a bow on the fact that we've experienced inflation for quite a while. Neighboring Canada stopped using pennies about a decade ago. In my last visit there, I found it was a perfectly reasonable move and there was really no inconvenience. Wonder if the Dems will sue to block this as well. This would be funny if it were not so sad. A whack job liberal state rep from Michigan claims that she had sterilization surgery to be sure she would not get pregnant while Trump was president. This was announced by 36-year-old Lori Pohutsky. A ridiculous statement attributed to her. I refuse to let my body be treated as currency by an administration that only sees value in my ability to procreate. What? Given the many high-level female appointments by the Trump administration already, I'm not sure exactly what her problem is. After all, a child born in 2026 would only live under a Trump presidency for a couple years. So this was a nonsense deal to get publicity, not because of anything legitimate. I hope there are enough residents of her district that can read and write that she is voted out of office in the next election. This is Dr. David Deshine. Thanks for joining me for this special edition of Saving America. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite site. Also, we welcome comments from our audience. You can contact us through ClaremontManagementGroup.com.